All right, now the ongoing debate between the centre and the states over the three-language policy doesn't seem to die down. Tamil Nadu is opposing the three-language policy under the NEP and continues to bat for two-language policy in the state. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has also joined the bandwagon and has urged the centre to withdraw the NEP, arguing that it fails to address the educational needs of India's diverse states. However, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has backed the NEP and said that no language is meant to be hated. Naidu said that one should give importance to the mother tongue, but at the same time, one needs to learn Hindi as it is useful for communication in Delhi, and other languages we can learn for earning livelihood. Well, even as this debate continues, the linguistic pride of the states aside, the larger question is that does the new education policy have the potential to scale up the education sector? Or are states justified in their argument that the NEP would alter the state education system? To talk more on that, we have guests joining us on the broadcast here. We have Director General and CEO of Arise, Vinesh Menon, joining us here on the broadcast. Dr. Amit Chandra, CEO of Center for Civil Society, Dr. Nisha Nujumuddin, who is a public policy expert. Thank you so much to all my panelists for being with us here on the broadcast. Dr. Chandra, if I could come to you first. Now, even as some southern states are opposing the NEP, there are voices that suggest that bringing in the NEP is beneficial for our youth, including Chandrababu Naidu, who said that no language must be hated and learning Hindi or any other regional language is only going to benefit our youth. What is your view on that?
Certainly, I think there is no doubt. Many people have actually talked about it, that the young mind is actually very open to learning new languages, and it can not just learn 3 languages, as many languages as possible they should be learning. I won't get into the politics side of the NEP, but basically I don't see that only, and even if there is some contention around the language policy, you can actually oppose the entire NEP. Look at NEP, actually it has more than 297 recommendations, 297, right, roughly 300 recommendations. And even if you have some objection on one thing, how can you oppose the entire education policy? Now give it a sense. And then too, so far in this entire debate, I have not found one rational, objective argument as to why you want to oppose one particular thing. And I have not seen really any academician actually talking about it. The only thing we see is the politics. NEP came in 2020. This is 4th year. Today you are all of a sudden waking up and saying this particular recommendation is not that you are going to adopt. In any case, when this new government came in Tamil Nadu, they then only decided not to go ahead with NEP, and they created their own committee to create state education policy. Now even that entire process, in my opinion, because I was actually looking for what's happening, who are the people, what's the argument, what is differently that they are doing. They had created a 15-member committee, came up with a state education policy. Entire process, in my opinion, was completely not transparent. And even today, if you actually look for, there are some news articles about ABC recommendation, but if you actually try to find out the actual piece of document, it's not available. So, I mean, as I said, I don't want to get into politics. That's not my business. I want to talk about education, and therefore, if any objective argument is presented, we can debate about it. Otherwise, there is nothing in the NEP as such to be opposed. There are a few things which we also, as an educationist, have criticized about it, but it has to be a positive criticism, giving the key objection and also presenting what is the alternate solution. You are simply saying that, okay, 3-language formula I would not adopt. Well, so then you want to stick with only 2 languages, or you want to further expand 4 languages. Who is saying Hindi imposition as part of NEP? NEP nowhere says Hindi is mandatory. It is saying 3-language policy. It is also saying that mother tongue education will be promoted. It is actually saying till grade 6, grade 8, and even, and in some cases what has happened, they are asking to create textbook, learning material, entire curriculum, even in engineering colleges in the mother tongue, so that more and more students could benefit from it. I mean,
Okay.
and therefore, once again, I'll say, bring some rational argument. We are happy to debate about it.
Okay, Mr. Menon, if I could come to you, there are some apprehensions that have been raised by the southern states. But, putting politics aside, does the NEP have the potential to scale up the education sector?
I certainly believe it does. I mean, the fact is that after 34 years, nearly 3.5 decades, we've had a new policy that is coming in, and the guidelines obviously are designed to take care of some of the modern requirements that education classrooms, the modern requirements that are required inside a classroom through education. The fact is, over 3.5 decades, a lot has changed in this world. Look at the changes. We've had changes in technology. We've had changes in the internet. We've had smartphones coming in. The Gen Z is now learning education in a very different manner. So, when you create a guideline, it is designed to address a certain cohort of students. And India, that way, is so diverse. I mean, we're talking about nearly 260 million students spread across the country. To try and address each one of them requires a certain guideline, which is kind of, cuts across the entire range of students. And I think what the NEP 2020 is trying to do is precisely that. And I agree with Dr. Chandra that, it is not in any case attempting to try and put any imposition. What it is simply saying is that and honestly, the three-language formula that we're talking about, it has been in existence right from 1968, right from the first NEP right down to 2020. The three-language formula remains. It has just started to get evolved, and it's just getting more better. So what they're now saying is that ensure that there are 2 native languages which are learned and 1 foreign language. And it's leaving the native languages totally to the states. So that is one part.
Okay.
Apart from that, there are many other areas like, credits, the credit system, the ability to choose, multidisciplinary subjects. These are all extremely progressive if you really look at it. Having said that, if I were to only make one comment on the probable areas that could have been better in NEP, when you roll out a guideline like this, I think it is also important to roll out the implementation methodology, the methodology to help interpret it. You see, half the problem comes because of the interpretation. How a state and how a district inside a state interprets one particular policy is very different from what another district interprets in another state. And that is why I think half the confusion is really coming up.
Okay, all right. Valid point raised there. Dr. Nisha, if I could come to you now. Should there be any problem with our youth learning a third language? I mean, are states justified in their argument that they're now opposing the NEP? Is there any merit in their argument?
The NEP 2020, if you see, is basically put forward with the goal of modernizing or revolutionizing the entire education system, because what we need today is not mere textbook knowledge. Rather, what we need today is a kind of vocational along with skill development perspective. So from 10+2 to 5+3+3 again has a lot of benefits. Indeed, we all know, like having a holistic and a multidisciplinary learning is the major objective of NEP. At the same time, if you see a lot of flexibility and choices, the factors or the called as inclusivity and equity, all these are the advantages of NEP. I do agree. Same time, now when you come when you talk about imposition of a 3-language formula, see, I am somebody who supports language. Language is actually, as some of the speakers also mentioned here, it is a form of, it's a medium where you kind of communicate with each other. Now, a compulsory imposition of any language actually holds a lot of relevance because the cultural ethnicity and the cultural diversity of many states are being taken away here. Now, in the context of Tamil Nadu, if you see, because I again worked with certain projects over here, so I personally, what I felt here is that when you try to talk about the educational development in a holistic perspective, English is indeed a global language which actually helps us to have a multiple globalization perspective as a whole. Because not every Indian
what is the problem then?
Yeah.
Why is there so much hullabaloo of imposition then?
Be promoted. Let me tell you one thing. If you see Bhojpuri, if you see, certain languages like that was there before, today the number of people who belong to that particular clan who speaks that is very less because of the excessive use of Hindi. Now, when Hindi comes, I talk Hindi. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk Hindi. It should be a choice. It should not be a force. Now, when you try to force something on anybody, what happens is that you need to understand we are in a democratic country and we're not a country where we follow Hitlerism. So basically, in a very centric democratic perspective, implementation of NEP should not be focused only on the three-language formula. Rather, do we have the required facilities, the teacher training programs, the proper implementation facilities? Are we able to overcome all these things?
But that's what Dr. Chandra also mentioned here, and Mr. Menon also, as we've been speaking to them, that nowhere in NEP it says that Hindi is going to be imposed. Rather, learning a third language, whichever language the students want to learn, that's going to be given as a choice.
Even now, so what is so new in that? If you go to a college or a school, if you see the second language, you can have Hindi, you can have the concerned mother tongue, you can have French, you can have German. Because if you see in the world of AI, what are we having now? We are basically, promoting and encouraging other languages. So to all the people who say that Hindi is the national language, let me please correct, it's not a national language. The highest number of the highest number of people, they speak Hindi. I agree to that. Followed by Telugu and followed by Bengali. Doesn't mean that tomorrow somebody will come and say, hey, you make Telugu and Bengal, another important language.
Okay. Let me. Before I wrap this up, Mr. Menon and Mr. Chandra, last few comments from you, Mr. Menon. If I could come to you now.
My only comment would be that I think it is a very well thought through guideline. I think it tries and addresses most of the requirements of the modern child. And India is a country where there are close to 260 million children studying in schools, and there are close to 1.4 million schools. You can imagine the size that we represent as a country. And therefore, I think, like I said earlier, what is important is to ensure that interpretation comes through right. I think that is very, very important. For example, when they say a foreign language, does English fall into that category, or is English by default anyways there because it is an official language? These are the kind of small doubts that continue to emerge inside the classroom, so that needs to be sorted out.
Absolutely.
If there is a child from a Gujarati family sitting inside Chennai school, what's going to happen? Is that Gujarati family child going to be taught Tamil compulsorily? Or is it just that it's one of the choices that he or she has to make because he's in Tamil Nadu?
Those are valid concerns and important points that you raised there. All right. Dr. Chandra, I won't have much time. Your last comments.
3 bullet points. Number 1, not just language policy, the entire NEP is a set of guidelines. Nothing is mandatory. States can customize and implement as per their choice. And therefore, this entire argument of imposition to me does not look valid. Second, don't only think about state becoming guardian, whether it's a center or the state. Please consult parents and students also. If they are choosing Hindi or whatever language and whatever they wish to learn, please facilitate that.
Right.
And you have to respect the democratic choice of parents. Please don't go against that. Consult schools, consult teachers, consult parents, consult students. Third, in any case, if you look at data, the little old data which I have is roughly 46% students in state were enrolled in private schools, including low-cost private schools. Only roughly 35% students are now going to government schools. And as much I know, all of these private schools are following 3-language formula. They are teaching Hindi. In one of my conversations, one school representative actually said, we want to teach Hindi to our students because parents want it, because when they go outside Tamil Nadu also, they can communicate. There are better job opportunities. If they go to Delhi and they have to live and work, how would they coordinate? And therefore there is a demand. And in any case, all of these 46% students who are going to private schools who are a little bit wealthy are actually learning 3 languages. Who they are depriving, and 35% students who cannot afford private school going to government schools.
So it
you are
should
depriving
be a choice.
of their choice.
Absolutely, and it should be a choice. And yes, all parties need to be taken into consultation. We understand, into agreement. The parents, of course, of this state. Politics, of course, keeping politics aside, this is something that, of course, needs to be taken into account. The opinions and views of the parents of these children also need to be taken into consideration, and that is what Mr. Chandra also here has been pointing out, that 47% of the students here in the state who've been going to private schools have been opting for Hindi, and this is what Chandrababu Naidu also today said, that Hindi is something that needs to be learned. If you go to Delhi, you want to earn livelihood, that's a common medium but it's of course not our national language, but something that could actually facilitate the students there. And it's not about the imposition of Hindi. Any language of the choice of the students can be learned. But yes, it's time that the politics on this issue needs to end, and we understand the future. Well, yes, the concerns of the students need to be taken into account. Thank you so much. Well, I'm sorry I won't have much time. Thank you so much to all my panelists for joining us here on the broadcast.